You've made it to Chiro Hustle Live. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession. This episode is brought to you by Clothes for Chiro, Chiro Sushi, Barbara Eaton's 56-day chiropractic bootcamp, Moveville University, Pure Chiro Notes, Dr. Alok Trivedi, the Black Diamond Club, Element Mattresses, Legacy Wealth Management, Posture Screen, Vita Chiropractic, the Universal Traction System, MedZone, Vantage Point Marketing, and Imaging Services. Let's hustle.
Hey guys, good morning. Jim Chester here with Lindsey Mathews. She's over there and I'm over here. I'm coming in from Grand Junction, which is the Grand Valley of Colorado, which is on the western slope of the state, which I like to say, no one lives. And you're where everyone lives. You're out there in Venice, California, right?
Yes, there's a lot of humans out here.
How did you pick Venice?
It was one of the first places I visited when I came to California originally. And right before I wanted to move back to Texas, I stopped here and then I hadn't left. So,
cool.
Yeah. It's fun.
Yeah, it's an interesting vibe out there. It's right on the beach. It's right on the ocean. So you're always down there by the water. So that's kind of cool. I'm by the mountains. It's kind of cool in Colorado. We have good energy here. Like I was saying to you, like the reason they call this place Grand Junction is because it's a confluence of rivers. So we get the Gunnison River meeting with the Colorado River. So there's tons of energy here.
Yeah. Colorado is a pretty great place.
So before we get started, I'm just going to say this episode is brought to everybody today by Legacy Wealth Management. If you guys want to unsubluxate your financial futures, look to Legacy Wealth Management to help you out to plan all that stuff out. So you can have a healthy, transition from earning to having a good future. So thank you, Legacy Wealth Management, for being the sponsor of us today. And so we're going to jump right into this conversation with you. I know that you've done a lot of things in the health related world, but I know that now you are a chiropractor, and let's just talk about chiropractic and how you got into chiropractic.
Yeah. So I'll start all the way at the beginning and you can stop me anywhere along the way.
Let's just drop the knowledge and let people know where did you come from? Come on. I know you're Texas.
Yeah. I was born and raised in Texas, and I grew up in a town called New Braunfels, which is really ironic that I just got an email in our inbox from a lady in New Braunfels, Texas that is pregnant, and I'm going to meet up with her the next time I'm in town. But I was born and raised in Texas. I was born, pretty standard American, what you think of birth, like happened in the hospital. I actually came like 3 weeks early. They loaded me up with antibiotics, all that good stuff, soy formula from the beginning. And, those were my early days. And I was diagnosed with asthma and allergies probably by the time I was like 18 months. Like they weren't hesitant to put a diagnosis on that, because as far back as my parents recall, I had asthma. So fast forward and you get to high school, and I was almost done with high school, but I blew out my ACL, and I was going to have surgery, and I went with the surgeon that actually put me into rehab or prehab before surgery. So this surgeon told me I could be 100% if I put the work into it. And for me, being this soccer player and cheerleader from Texas, I really wanted to play soccer in college. So going with the ortho that said, hey, you can be 100% if you put the work into it, that's the one I chose. And it was this guy that introduced me to alternative therapies, which is kind of ironic. This orthopedic surgeon that wore cowboy boots and scrubs, and he was just really progressive and ahead of his time at the moment. But before ACL surgery, I was seeing a chiropractor. I was seeing an acupuncturist. I was going to Rolfing, and it was just like totally like what I was like totally new, like a year before that, if you would have asked me what Rolfing was or what a chiropractor did or what an acupuncturist did, I had no idea. So that was my first exposure. But then I went to school. I went to Texas A&M University, and I majored in biology and pre-med, and I was on track. I wanted to go to med school and become an orthopedic surgeon, just like this ortho that helped me out. And I took off a semester. I believe this was my junior year, and I decided to go do a medical mission trip in Africa.
Mhm.
And I went to Tanzania and flew into Dar es Salaam. We rode a bus for like 9 hours to the Mount Kilimanjaro, to that town, Arusha, right around there. And, I spent about a month here, and basically I was, I woke up. Like, Africa is the greatest place on earth. It is full of human connection and energy. And, it's, if you ever get the chance to go there, I would say go visit, because it's absolutely magical. And it was here that this mom brought her son to me. And we had clinic on the weekends, but during the weeks we would walk and hike and go anywhere we could to do medical triage for people out there. And we had 2 overseeing medical doctors, and that was really it. So my job was, take some blood pressure, do some auscultation, stuff like that. And this mom brought her son to me. He was about 6 or 7, and he was paralyzed on the left side of his body. And she was complaining that he had seizures. And I don't know if it was like true paralysis or just he wasn't using the left side of his body. But she felt like he was a little possessed. He wasn't like the rest of the kiddos. And, they shared their story with me that he got sick when he was younger. And this was about, I want to say, around 2 years old. And they didn't take him to the hospital right away, which is like, if somebody's sick, eventually take him to the hospital. There's no clinics or anything in that area. But they eventually had to go into the hospital because he wasn't getting any better. In fact, he was getting a little worse. And then at the hospital, they diagnosed him with bacterial meningitis. So that was basically all the information she had. And, at that moment, I just kind of stopped and I was like, oh my God, like, what are we going to do here? Because the overseeing doc wanted to prescribe a sedative. And the mom basically wanted to figure out, what's going on with her son? Why is he different? Why is he possessed if he's possessed? Like, those sort of things. And, I just kind of stopped in my tracks and I was like, I don't think I can do medicine. Like, this isn't what I wanted, because all I'm going to do for this mom is put a Band-Aid on the situation if I give a prescription for something to knock the kiddo out. And, when we're gone in 2 months or so and the prescription runs out, what is she going to do? Like, the seizures are going to come back, or, the symptoms that he was presenting with all were going to show up again. And, I just took this mom outside of this, like, this small room, and it was me and her and my translator. And I just said, hey, I don't really feel comfortable prescribing a medication because this little boy is still the same spirit that he was, when he was born. He's just been dealt some pretty shitty cards. And, I just started crying. Mom started crying. We started hugging. And, at that time, all I could offer her was, hey, just love him the same way you love your other kiddos and keep him safe when the seizures happen. But, if I would have been trained in chiropractic, I always go back and think about this situation. Like, I could have adjusted him. I could have done so much. I could have done some breath work. I could have done anything, but I didn't have those tools on me at that time. And it was just divine intervention. And, I called my stepdad from the only payphone in town. It's like, hey, I'm not going to medical school, but I don't know what I'm going to do. So long story short, I came home, waited tables for a few months, and then finally figured my shit out and got into chiropractic school. Yeah, but that was the turning point.
Yeah, that's a very true story, and I think that a lot of people are going to have some takeaways from this, and they're going to be able to realize that everybody has a beginning, and
Mm-hmm.
everybody comes from somewhere. And if you know more, you can help more people. And
Mm-hmm.
from my perspective, what I was saying to you earlier is like, where I came from, why I'm right here in front of you today with the messages that I share with our culture and with the people that need them. We're transcending an evolution, a message. And it's something that's been with us for 122 years. It's called chiropractic, but more people need it. And the reason that I'm doing this type of stuff, Lindsay, because I really do want chiropractic to live outside the four walls of chiropractic.
Yeah.
I want it to transcend the pockets of chiropractic, and I want it to become global, and I want it to become more well known to when people have these type of crisis and they have somebody that they love and they have somebody that they want to see start getting in a better state of transitioning from a symptomatology state to a healing state, that chiropractic is the answer for that. So many people just don't know. They
Yeah.
think that the dogmatic approach to it is, oh, I have a headache, I should go get adjusted. Oh, I have a back pain. Oh, chiropractic can help. Oh, I was in a car crash, that can help somebody with chiropractic, that those services can
Yeah.
help somebody. But really what happens is when a chiropractor does the adjustment, it flips the nervous system on to flowing again.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes that stoppage out of that river of life inside of that person, and it turns it into a flowing source of abundance again. And I think that that's the point where you're saying is, chiropractically speaking, now you have the toolkit.
Mm-hmm.
Now you know that if you could go back in time, whatever years ago this was, you could then have adjusted that atlas and just let the body heal and do nothing extra to
Do
it.
what it's gonna do. Yeah.
But that's what you've learned now over this course of your life. And I think that that's the one of the most beautiful things about chiropractic, is it's always been said the body needs nothing extra in it, simply no interference. But a lot of times people don't realize that the spinal column controls every organ, tissue, and cell that's going on in the body. And when you clear up that subluxation, the body's allowed to, what do? You don't do anything to it. You just restore the functionality to where the body can do what it's supposed to.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Absolutely.
I get fired up when we talk about where life was for somebody and where it is today, and how the chiropractic adjustment can just change the course of somebody's future, or it could change that. I know you're really interested in kids and babies and development with moms and whatnot, and I know that it can change like the whole like growth pattern of a family.
Totally.
The chiropractic adjustments can change the whole future of an entire family or a whole country or a whole world, and we think about it like big, like everybody's like, yeah, chiropractic, I want to go change the world. Well, you can, but we
Yeah.
have we have to
One
communicate
person
it
at a
differently.
time. Yeah.
We have to figure out how to communicate it differently,
Mhm.
and get it more consumer based. But before we get into me getting so fired up that I take the whole talk over, let's talk more about Lindsey Mathews, and let's talk a little bit about how you started BirthFit. I know that's a big topic that's getting a lot of attention right now and a lot of momentum over the past couple of years. You started out doing that blogging, right?
Yeah, it was just my opinion, really. And, the blog used to be drlindseymathews.com. And I started writing on the topic of BirthFit. And for me, this was pre my days as involved in CrossFit or any like fitness was far beyond my thoughts. It was just running and yoga at the time. And, at that time, I had a couple patients that had come to me, and they were either professional athletes or actresses that were involved in like TV shows or movies. And so they had certain like windows of time in which they wanted to be in their best shape or recover or have a baby or something. And for me, I didn't know anything when I'm thinking back of this first client that's like, hey, I want to be in the best shape of my life to conceive. And when she told me that, I thought, well, that makes a hell of a lot of sense. Like, why hasn't anybody else said this? Like, why didn't anybody talk about this in my sex ed class in 7th grade? Like we are designed to reproduce. And when a woman is pregnant, she's literally the healthiest version of herself. And for me, that just like light bulb went off. So, I told this woman and a few other clients, hey, I don't know a lot about pregnancy or birth or postpartum, because even in our school and training beyond, and even in medical school, like unless you go on to take that OB-GYN residency, like there's not a lot of training. And there's definitely not a lot of training as far as fitness, nutrition, chiropractic, mindset, pelvic floor rehab, that kind of stuff in the prenatal postpartum world that I was exposed to. And so I basically started doing a ton of extra certifications. I did all the ICPA diplomat seminars. I did sacred pregnancy. I did innate postpartum certification. I did hypnobirthing, doula training, ICA, childbirth educator, like anything that had the word birth or postpartum or anything, like I did it. And for me, this was, I became fascinated. Like I was like, oh my God, there's so much in here that people don't know. And, I would find information. I'd bring it back to these like handful of women that I was working with. And I was like, did you know this? Or do you like, and they're like, no, but that's pretty interesting. And, the more I read, the more I was like, this stuff has to get out. Like nobody's talking about, hey, you actually have choices in birth, or you don't have to, you can give birth at home. You can give birth in the birth center. You can give birth at a hospital with a midwife. Like there's options out there. You don't have to go with the same OB-GYN you've had since you first started your period. Like there might be different expectations there. So that's how the blog started. And then, people started catching on to the idea of birth fit, like being mind, body, soul ready for birth. And that's literally what it is, capable of, your whole being ready for this hugely transformational experience. And I'll probably around 2013, I'll try to remember the dates, but a woman named Lindsey Mathews reached out, and she's a chiropractor in North Carolina, Raleigh, North Carolina. And she had been following the blog, and she said, hey, like this needs to be spread. Like, how do we make this happen? And I basically told her, I have no idea. I'm just being me over here. And she said, I want to be an affiliate. I said, great. I have no idea what that means, but we can explore that. And so that was the first year, and we took on 5 new affiliates. And after that year, we basically changed our affiliate term to regional directors, and that's what they're called now. But they are taught in the BirthFit curriculum. They are licensed to use the BirthFit name. They go through online training for about 3 to 4 months. It's right in between 3 and 4 months. Then they complete their training with an in-person training at the BirthFit Summit. And they are the go-to hubs of information in their cities. And right now we have 93 across the United States and Canada. Yeah, so they each represent the 4 pillars: fitness, nutrition, chiropractic, and mindset. So we're pretty pumped now. Like the word's getting out.
You've made it to Chiro Hustle Live. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession. This episode is brought to you by Clothes for Chiro, Chiro Sushi, Barbara Eaton's 56-day chiropractic bootcamp, Moveville University, Pure Chiro Notes, Dr. Alok Trivedi, The Black Diamond Club, Element Mattresses, Legacy Wealth Management, Posture Screen, Vita Chiropractic, the Universal Traction System, MedZone, Vantage Point Marketing, and Imaging Services. Let's hustle.
That excites me because, it matters for one person to have some inspiration and to become highly educated and to build a tribe and a team around them. And you never know what can happen because of that passion and that drive and that innate intelligence that you teach yourself, that you just continuously go on this flow with. Mm-hmm. And you learn that the things that you knew were necessary to the development of culture. And what you did is you found like the truths that mattered to you, and you knew that these would matter to someone else. So you started really small, and you started incubating the system and the ideas. And then you had people say, hey, I love what you're doing. How can I join the team? And I think that that's what we're still starting to see happen with Chiro Hustle is, we started out as a guy that went around that scheduled people into chiropractic offices. And then I was like, you know what? Why don't we just make a movie on chiropractic? And, the thing started to snowball. And before I knew it, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to put on an interview every day. I'm going to see what happens. So now we're on this continuum of putting an interview out every day, and we're starting to see the momentum grow for this beautiful thing called chiropractic. And,
awesome.
It just matters that you find one thing that you can really focus on and you stay true to it. And that seems to be like you were really interested in seeing how you could develop better humans.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. And I think back, like the kids, like the children, that's what matters, and they're the next generation. But if you get even further back, like it starts with conception. It starts pre-conception.
3 months before, right?
Yeah, totally.
with mom and dad.
And you can create such an optimal environment there that's going to have an effect on that human the rest of their lives. And the womb is not this sterile environment that we once thought it was.
It's a human thing. It's not a money thing, guys. And when you guys realize that it's a human thing and that those are the closest relationships that we can have is changing the course of humanity with our intelligence, then you realize that you've done something very profound and important. And I think that what you realize is it's a human thing. And if you do the right thing with the humanity, then large amounts of money will come to you. And it can't be about trying to put it in reverse. You can't go looking for large amounts of money to come to you without serving on a grand scale.
Absolutely, yeah.
So it just builds harmony in the soul and the heart when you can become intelligent and you can transcend that intelligence onto people. And now I'm going to flip the page back on you, and we're going to talk about something that most people don't really discuss on the Chiro Hustle podcast and the Chiro Hustle movement. Let's talk failure. How many times did you hit your head before you ducked?
Well, I've failed a lot in life. If you want to date back to like math class, I definitely failed one of my math classes, and I think it was geometry or something was the first time I was like, wait, what? I'm not passing. But I remember that instance vividly because it made me actually work harder and go in for extra tutoring and extra, time with the professor or teacher at the time. And then I get to college and I'm in, Texas A&M University entry-level physics class, and I'm one of like 350 students there. And that professor doesn't care if I pass or fail. I'm just another number in there.
No relationship.
No relationship there, no humanity, nothing. So I remember that time, and I failed my first physics test, and I got it back, and it was something like, it just said like an F. I remember it just being really like circled, and I met him at his office hours, and I was like, I don't understand, like, how do I make this better? He was like, you failed, you can't. And this guy, totally Russian accent. Like I ended up liking him by the end of the semester. But at that moment in time, I was like, how can he just sit there and tell me like you're failing, like you're gonna fail? And I just couldn't. I was like floored by this. And ever since then, I realized that, hey, you have to put in time. Like that thing of like 10,000 hours, that applies. And then the thing of 10,000 hours plus deliberate practice actually applies, So you got to be intentional with how you use your time, how you practice, how you show up for yourself, how you show up in these classes. And, I got that served to me very early on. And, fast forward to like the real world. And I moved out to California with like $10,000 I saved up from waiting tables. And that doesn't go very far in California, especially if you're in chiropractic school and you got to figure it out, and I didn't have anything to fall back on. So, I took my first chiro internship job out of school that, was going to make money. And, for me, I thought looking at that moment in time, there's no birth fit in sight. But I thought, oh, this is going to be where, like, I'm, this is it. This is my chiro career. And, about 3 years in, even though I was traveling the world with some of like the coolest celebrities and, working on set, like it was not fulfilling at all. And I just remember being alone in a hotel room reading about birth and pregnancy. And, I was like, wait, this stuff excites me way more than, getting somebody ready to jump off of a building. So, I look at all the failures as like huge learning opportunities. And there's a really good book called The Obstacle is the Way. And when I read that, I think that shifted my mindset a lot into, okay, this obstacle is here, it's present, and it's going to teach me something. If I don't learn, then it's probably going to come back around again and try to show me, a much more abrupt or much more, kind of way. And ever since then, I've just viewed everything as it's teaching me something. And I'll tell you this, at our first BirthFit Summit, this was, so we're coming up on our third BirthFit Summit, which will be in June in Austin, Texas. But our first one, which was in my backyard, and I talked all the regional directors into coming to visit me and hanging out for 4 days. And some of them I'd never even met in person. But I literally had $75 in the bank. And I was like, how is this going to work? Like, how am I going to make this an amazing experience for them? And, I still look back on that and I'm like, wow, that was hilarious. Like, but what an opportunity to learn from. So, yeah.
That takes me back to my one of my biggest fail stories is I was working at my second office, and it was Christmas of like 2014. And I mentioned to the doc that I was going to step away from helping at the office because I didn't feel right getting paid because we weren't making the income we were supposed to be making. So I was like, I'm just going to go figure it out on my own.
Yeah.
So I was going to take the full month of January off to do something just for myself. I was doing yoga every day, and I was reading every day, and I was just detached from everything. It got to January 12th, and I was like, you know what? I don't think I'm going to have a place to live next month. So I called up two of my good friends in the Denver area, and I was like, hey, AJ, hey, Brandon, do you guys have any marketing events I can go do for you? So between January 12th and February 1st, I did enough marketing events for their two clinics to make enough money to pay my rent with $3 left in my name. And then I've never looked back, and I've just kept on Chiro hustling ever since that day. And we all have these like $75 in the bank story, or if you don't, you need to go find that $75 in the bank story,
Yeah.
and you need to capitalize that and use that as a launch pad, or you need to have your $3 in to your name story and say, hey, I had $3 to my name, and now look what I've done because I've been so damn persistent, like Steve says.
Yeah.
And Tom says, smooth seas never made a successful sailor.
That's so true.
And Dr. Barry Hobbs says, BirthFit is such a great name, authentic in truth, yet catches the eye for marketing. So, I love the audience participation platform that we have here too with these Facebook Live interviews. I love that we can, congratulate people for joining us. Just want to say thanks to everybody that's been on this live feed with us. We're not ending yet. We have a little bit of stuff we're going to like catch up on, but I'm just going to take a quick second to recognize some more of these people that are on the feed with us. Is that okay?
Yeah.
All right. So I'm terrible with last names. So I think it's Steve Isidore. Is that right? Do you know Steve? But thank you, Steve, for being on the live feed with us today. And Tom Potisk is in Mount Horeb, Wisconsin. He is a member of the Gonstead Guardians. They are the guys that are up there restoring the Gonstead Clinic back to its the grandeur of what Clarence Gonstead wanted his practice to be. Tom is the president of that society that's restoring the Gonstead practice back to its grandeur state.
Oh, that's cool.
Right? Yeah, pretty cool. And he said something earlier on. He said, So glad to hear somebody challenging the pregnancy is like the pregnancy is like an illness mentality. And he says Jim has a real commitment for chiropractic. Fortunate to call him a friend. So we love Tom, and we have honestly the greatest chiropractic screener of all time is Dave Major on the feed with us today. He says stress affects structure, structure determines function, function determines health.
Mm-hmm.
And he last year scheduled in 2,500 people to chiropractic offices, and that's I think that's pretty amazing. But then we have Tim McFadden. He is a huge advocate of the Chiro Hustle podcast. He's actually an episode, and he says to me, I don't listen to all live streams, but I listen to Jim's. So that's a huge that's a nice feather in the cap, if you will. And then Iris Faulkner, she is out in California, and she gives a big smiley face with hard eyes to you. Maybe it's to me. I don't know.
Might be.
and then we have Cindy Elwert Shaft Toll. She says hi from womenchiropractors.org, and she says she loves Venice. So, nice. And then we have Barbara Eaton. So we talked about her a little bit off of camera. So Barb and I are a force when it comes to these live interviews, and thank you, Barb, for everything you do. And she's actually a sponsor of our podcast, the 56-day chiropractic boot camp that teaches people how to double their practice in, I don't know how long she takes, but she'll help you double your practice.
She's awesome.
And then Tom says, BJ wrote a whole book about it, Up from Below the Bottom, about how you have to hit ground zero to actually launch yourself to finding your own self-discovery and your prominence with your message.
Yeah, I am 100% believer that you have to hit rock bottom in order to get up.
Well, it happens to the best of us.
Yeah, for sure. You know, some of my regional directors and people that teach with us, like our seminar staff, they like to kid and joke around that I have about 52 lives. And, you know, I always say that my experience in life definitely led me and prepared me to this moment in today, or to be the leader with BirthFit, because, you know, it's definitely a role I had to step into, and it's quite intimidating in the beginning because there's 93 other women that I feel like could probably do a better job than I do. And those are all the regional directors around the U.S. and Canada. So, yeah, you gotta fall down to get up.
Well, I think as Les Brown says, if you're going to fall down 9 times, get up 10.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then he says, if you're going to fall down, fall on your back, because if you can look up, you can get up.
It's pretty clever.
So let's talk future. What's next move for you? What are you doing with BirthFit? What are you doing with Lindsey Mathews? Or what's in store for people?
Yeah. So all of this year, we've embraced the motto, especially from within, truth and transparency. And in all truth and transparency, our goal is to grow the movement of BirthFit, to get everyone on board with this movement. And, you know, it could be a chiro referring a new mom in his practice to our podcast. It could be, you know, a coach or a nutrition therapist somewhere saying, hey, you know, there's a postpartum series happening in our city. It would be a great place for you to connect with like-minded moms. And, you know, these resources are there. It just needs to be talked about. So growing the network, making that happen. And the ultimate goal is to establish that human connection. And that's what these regional directors are. That's what their classes are. And right now, we basically get people from Instagram or Facebook, or they find our website, and then we funnel them out to whatever appropriate location regional director they're in. Or even with our directory, we have professionals and coaches that we can refer to as well. So the human connection is huge, and that's so important to us. And that's why, you know, we don't have certifications online. That's why, we have very minimal online programs, but we do have those. But we would much rather women and their partners, connect with their regional directors so they can go to the classes and the experiences in their locations, because that's a huge, huge thing. The BirthFit Summit is also coming up, and this will be our third one. But this is a huge deal for us in that we want this to be a live women's health summit. And it's definitely like the first year there was 25 of us. The second year there was 52 of us. This year there's going to be 150 plus with an open day for general public to purchase tickets to see some of the speakers. So each year it's growing, and I try not to make it bigger than it is at that time. But
Sure.
yeah, those are some of the goals right now.
Well, I don't offer this to everyone, but if you do want any help doing promotion at your event, let me know.
Yeah.
Maybe I can help you out too. So
For sure.
I know that you gave me a bio, because if any of you guys get a show with me, I ask for a bio, a headshot, and I give you a worksheet to do. So just make sure you guys get that to me within 48 hours of our live, so I can make the most of it, and so I can digest who you are and what makes you really special. And thank you for doing that for me, Lindsey.
I'm so surprised I did that.
Well, Myra, my virtual assistant, does such a great job of motivating the guests to doing their work for me to make my job easier. That just gives me a chance to focus on all of my energy to giving the best interview that I can, to where I don't live in that stress bubble of saying, why don't I have this and why don't I know enough about this person in order to actually seem like I know what I'm talking about.
True.
But she did a great job of, you had one sentence on your bio, and I'm just going to read it because it's on my little light here. It says, I am a woman in pursuit of truth through food, travel, and relationship. Let's talk about that before we jump off. And what does that mean to you? I'm a woman in pursuit of truth through food, travel, and relationship. What does that mean to you?
Oh my gosh, it means so much. For one thing, I'm a woman, and as corny as it sounds, the future is female, and I don't think that men and women are equal. I think women have these amazing powers that we just haven't seen or acknowledged or cared to just observe in our society. And, I think we're both, male and female, our own unique creatures, and we have to embrace that and embrace who we are deep down in our core, like our soul. So that's like the woman part, and that's pretty amazing. As far as like the travel and the food and the relationships, there's nothing better to me than going to a new city, sitting down with people and just having a meal and talking, like having a conversation, and no phones, no technology, no TVs. Maybe there's some music in the background, but you can experience so much from a meal with people, from conversation, and from travel. And, I aim to do that in, all areas of my life. So if we get together at the BirthFit Summit and we're able to share some food and have a conversation, that means the world to me. If I travel to, let's say, Mexico next month, and it's our wedding, and we have, 40 people at a table, that's a pretty special experience, because there's not going to be any technology. It's just going to be good people, good food, and, good times, good memories happening. So I think, it's all, it can lead to a pretty magical experience if you let it.
Well, that's awesome. And I appreciate your willingness to share so much, and your willingness to become transparent and authentic and vulnerable with your message. I think that those are some key tenets to having a great, impactful interview with somebody. And if people want to know more about BirthFit, where do they go, and how can they join this amazing movement that you've helped curate?
Yeah. So birthfit.com, or they can go and join us on Instagram at BirthFit. If they're looking for a regional director, we're actually updating our website this week to include like a really awesome page featuring all the 93 regional directors. But for now, they can look them up on Instagram at BirthFit_. Davenport or at BirthFit Dallas, or, just shoot for like the location that you're living in and see what pops up. They're all on Instagram. They're all on Facebook. So everybody has their own Facebook page. But yeah, if you land on birthfit.com, you'll end up in the right spot.
It's all one word.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Well, I just want to thank you for spending some time with me and on your episode 38, by the way. She's episode 38 on the Chiro Hustle Facebook, or on the Chiro Hustle website. So go to chirohustle.com, check out episode number 38. That's our call to action. And just listen to what she has to say. I know that we added in a lot of spice on this live stream, but there's a lot of really good information on the Chiro Hustle interview that we did with you. Mm-hmm. And if anybody's interested in joining the Chiro Hustle tribe, just shoot me a message. If anybody's interested in joining the BirthFit tribe, shoot Lindsey a message. And I just want to say thank you so much for spending some time with me on this Monday afternoon.
Awesome. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and before we jump off, I'm just going to say, if you guys want to unsubluxate your financial futures, reach out to Legacy Wealth Management. They are our sponsors today. And thank you, Legacy team, for supporting everything that we're doing with Chiro Hustle. So, Lindsey, have a blessed rest of your day out there in Venice, California. And I'm going to do likewise out here in Grand Junction, Colorado.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
All right. We'll see you on the next one.
All right. Bye.
All right.
Thank you for listening to Chiro Hustle Live. Don't forget to subscribe and check back next week to continue hustling.